So I'm Gary Mottram. I am the person who liaises with the Sub-Saharan African group of teachers and the teacher educators and help organize things like these webinars, as well as running discussions and posting information on the Telegram discussion list. So welcome to those people who joined on time. Not an enormous number today, but hopefully there will be more people joining as the session goes on. So Steve and Michelle both work directly for the British Council and are in support of the session. So I think we better start. Tiruneh and Getachew. So if you just quickly introduce yourselves, they're going to talk to us today about self-regulated learning and 21st century skills. So I'll pass over to Tiruneh and Getachew.
Okay, thanks so much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. So I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Getachew, and we're here to present our webinar on promoting self-regulated learning through the 21st century skills. So here are the objectives of the webinar. So Dr. Getachew, would you like to step in?
Dr. Daniel. The objectives of this webinar, in this particular webinar, of course, we've got certain objectives that we'd like to achieve by the end of our meeting. The first one is, it is just to introduce the concept and the key components of self-regulated learning and its significance in 21st century education landscape. The other one will be to explore various 21st century skills and how they can be nurtured through self-regulated learning. Having looked at this, then we shall proceed to dealing with some of the practical strategies and tools the teacher educators can use to promote self-regulated learning among the student community. In fact, Daniel and I, just this year, conducted a research with regard to self-regulated learning and 21st century skills. So in this regard, we shall try to also share, or the objective of the seminar, among others, is just to share research-based evidence concerning the positive impact of self-regulated learning on students' academic performance and lifelong learning. In here, we are not the sole speakers. We are here simply to facilitate. Otherwise, we've come to this academic ecosphere just to share knowledge. So our task will mainly be to facilitate discussions and interactive activities so that participants would be encouraged to reflect on their current teaching practice and identify areas for improvement. Finally, we shall provide reference for further reading and exploration of self-regulated learning and 21st century skills. These are some of the objectives that we are planning to achieve by the end of this webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Getachew. So just to begin with, now let's begin with defining self-regulated learning. So we've given you some options to choose from. So which of the definitions provided here do you think define self-regulated learning? Can we see your answers in the chat room? So is it A, B, or C? Let's take a minute or so and see if we can choose which of the options given here can best define self-regulated learning. Everybody, can you hear us? Let's see your answers in the chat room. We have guys from Botswana, we have guys from Ethiopia, we have from, yeah, everybody's here, so we're getting some answers. Kennedy is giving us answers, Celestine, Rita, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your names. So we're getting answers. Okay, I think all the answers given are correct. So the answer that have been given so far, learning that is directed by the individual, involving metacognition, motivation, strategic planning. Yeah, that's the answer. That's in fact the answer. And self-regulated learning, as you're aware, can be defined as, you know, it's the ability or capability of the students to take control of their own learning processes, to decide what to learn, how to learn. It therefore involves the metacognitive, cognitive, and behavioral strategies, which learners use maybe to set goals, to monitor their own learning and progress, and to regulate their learning, and also to reflect. You know, there are a number of definitions given to self-regulated learning, but these are the commonalities as given by these scholars. So it's all about taking responsibility. It's all about being proactive rather than reactive. The students are in the classroom not just to listen to what the teacher says, but to also contribute, to also take control of their own learning. That is essentially what self-regulated learning is all about. Now, so you see that there are some important terms in self-regulated learning, which are metacognitive, cognitive, and behavioral, as you've seen in the definition. So would you like to match the strategies listed from 1 through 3 with the purpose of these strategies? Let's see some of your answers. Yeah, Dr. Getachew, would you like to facilitate?
So long as learning, of course, self-regulated learning basically is regarded to be the one which mainly functions with very orchestration of these three strategies: metacognitive, cognitive, and behavioral. And our readings, of course, have given us certain strategies and purpose of the strategy. So, so long as these ones are concerned, we have brought these stimulating questions for the sake of, thinking over them and then matching them.
Yes. So metacognitive, it refers to A, B, or C, and cognitive, which of these strategies match with which of the purposes? Let's see some answers, then we'll move on. I can see some answers from Ritha. Very nice. Ritha is an active participant in this webinar. Okay. Ritha Darani. Okay.
Sorry if in case we have mispronounced
Yeah.
any names.
We're sorry. We apologize in advance. Let's see some answers. We've got another. Okay. Ritha. She apologizes if we mispronounce. Yeah. So we've got another answer from Kennedy, an active participant again. Thank you. We've got another participant, Melanie. Unfortunately, we can't tell where each participant is. Thank you. Okay, I think that suffices, Getachew. So, can you tell us which refers to which?
Yeah.
Metacognitive.
So long as the metacognitive strategies are concerned, B is the answer, I think.
Yeah, metacognitive, it's about setting goals. Planning is about being aware of what one is doing. It's about reflection, it's about regulated learning, it's about positive self-talk, and cognitive it's about language abilities, capabilities, problem solving, critical thinking, logical reasoning, and behavior or motivation is about managing one's time, managing the resource one has, deciding which place is comfortable for the student to learn. So in self-regulated learning, we have these strategies: metacognitive, cognitive, and behavioral. And the purpose of each strategy is, as you've already answered. Very nice. Let's move on. So now, how does, therefore, self-regulated learning affect language learning? From your experience, you may give us, the answers in terms of, for example, learner-centered approach. Everybody knows what learner-centered approach is. Promoting autonomy and motivation, developing metacognitive skills or encouraging goal setting planning, fostering reflection and self-evaluation. Now, in terms of these, would you say something about the significance of self-regulated learning in language learning? Let's still see some answers. Okay. So Melanie is from Cameroon. Good.
Oh,
Good.
nice
Good.
to see you, man.
Nice to see you, Melanie. And we were hoping we would have one from Ethiopia. I know colleagues have been informed about this webinar and they have been looking forward to it. Hopefully they might have joined or they might join later. So we're hoping to get some answers. Yeah, so maybe Getachew, you might tell us some of the functions in terms of learner-centered approach. That's significant.
Right, Daniel. So long as self-regulated learning is concerned, in fact, self-regulated learning basically helps students become independent learners, right? Become independent learners. So in this regard, self-regulated learning basically is believed to have its own impact on the different aspects of language pedagogy. This is what we're going to have a look at later on.
Yeah, that's right. And it also enhances, autonomy. Students will be capable of, deciding what to learn, how to learn, where to learn, which is autonomy. And it also, enhances their motivation.
One area that is given due prominence is self-regulated learning. Among others, learners are expected to make their own decisions.
Exactly. And also, sure.
Qualities.
Exactly. And to put their own goals. For example, how many books to read in a month, for example. What areas in their language proficiency needs improvement, for example. And to reflect as to how they're performing. So overall, you see that self-regulation allows students to become less reactive and more proactive in their learning. But in the traditional approach, probably you might have heard people saying that the teachers go to the classroom with, full of knowledge, the students are, receiving. That's not the case now. Students are there to share, to contribute, to plan, to reflect, and to set goals also. I see we're getting some answers. We have participants from Tanzania, and you see from Mozambique, and from Kenya. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And
Kennedy has
given an answer.
Reply. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is at the heart of self-regulated learning.
It enhances.
Fostering, enhancing independent learning is at the very heart of self-regulated learning. The learner is expected to be leading his own or handling his own case.
Exactly.
Instead of simply, depending on the classroom teacher, whose role under the traditional approach is regarded to be as the heart of everything.
Okay. However, perfect. And the participants, can you hear us? Are we audible enough? Can you say yes if we are audible enough? Everybody, can you hear us?
Yes, you are.
Gary, Stephen, are we okay?
Yes, you could, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now, as we said earlier on, we have in self-regulated learning, there are three basic components, which are the cognition part, the metacognition part, behavioral or motivation. So can we match which component matches with which item given from A through I? For example, cognition, is it about problem solving? Or is it about being aware and understanding? Or is it about reflecting on one's own learning? We've actually partly dealt with this one just to exercise. Let's take a minute or so and see if we can match.
Even though we might not give an exhaustive list,
yes,
just since we are being pressed against time. So
okay. So we have Tariku from Ethiopia. Thank you, Tariku. This is Dr. Getachew's student. We're happy to have you here. And we're being informed that we are audible enough. Perfect.
Yeah, Tariku is telling me that my voice is not audible.
Oh, I see.
I might have put myself away from the mic.
Okay, perfect.
So let me get nearer to the mic.
Thank you, Tariku, for the feedback.
Tariku, still, if you are not listening to what I'm saying, please don't hesitate to inform me again.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, that's much better, Getachew.
Sorry?
That's much better, Getachew. We can hear you better now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. Now he's closer to the mic.
So I'm just coming close, getting closer to the mic.
Okay, perfect. So cognition. So let's have your answers. As Getachew said from the outset, we are here just to facilitate and to initiate thinking. So thinking about teaching, learning. So it's audible now. So people tell us that Getachew is audible now. So your answers. Let's see your answers. Then we'll move on. Yeah, we'll be taking some 30 seconds. Okay, so maybe we've given them some more options. So I think everybody is engaged. Yeah, I think so. So cognition is yeah. So yeah, that's right. So yeah, let's move on. So there you are. Metacognition is if you've said the choices B, C, E, F, and H match with metacognition, and B. Okay. Someone is answering. Everyone is self-regulating. Everyone is self-regulating. Yeah. So this is a Gary. Thank you, Gary. Everyone is self-regulating. This is
great.
Great.
Okay.
So if you've said if you match like this, you're right. Perfect. So let's move on. So maybe we can yeah. Would you like to step in, Getachew?
Now, so long as self-regulated learning is concerned, if at all it has to prove itself to be somehow productive, then writers like Zimmerman and many others in the area of language pedagogy or in the area of pedagogy as a whole, they say that there are 3 cycles which are to come together and which are, of course, bound together. The first one is for thought, then there is performance control, then there is self-reflection. What do you mean by for thought, performance control, and self-reflection? Daniel, can you comment?
Yes. So if we wish our students to be self-regulated learning, they have to first of all think about their learning, which is the forethought. Before they actually, do something, they have to think in advance. That's what the forethought is. Like, for example, what improvements am I planning to make? Which areas do I need to improve? Where should I study? Which friend shall I study practice with? This is the forethought. What are my plans? Then the other one is the performance control. Like, for example, they control their own performance. How am I doing? Am I doing well? And so on. And self-reflection is they check whether they have achieved their goals. So now we have still some activities. So which do you think from the choices given from A through E or from 1 to 5 match with forethought, performance control, self-reflection? Still, let's give you some time to self-regulate, think about the activity, and tell us your answers. So I hope everyone is still engaged. Yes, everyone is on board. Let's see if you still can hear us. I think we have a stable connection and we're audible enough. Performance control is C. So we're getting answers. We can hear you fine. Thanks. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. So thank you, Kennedy. Kennedy is an active participant. Thank you, Kennedy. Yes. Tariq, your student, is also giving us an answer. Thank you. Great. Wonderful. Okay, so Rita is she's giving an answer also. Thank you, Rita. Okay, let's have at least 2 more, then we'll get back. Okay, perfect. So yes, wonderful. So forethought, So what techniques can I use to actively engage with and respond to my classmates' ideas, for example, is the forethought. The student will have to think about the techniques. When will I practice speaking with my classmates is also forethought. When? It's about time. Before the student actually goes to the classroom or to the speaking practice, you need to plan. Then how was my performance? This is Getachew. This is, yeah, how was my performance? This was what I planned. Then I performed it. I went to the classroom and spoke. Then how was it? Exactly.
If I was successful, what were some of the prominent issues that I was able to meet? And if I simply missed, then what were some of the weaknesses that I exhibited?
Exactly.
So that by the end of the day, the person would go back and then try to revise his own performance throughout the way.
Yes. And D, how can I manage anxiety? This is performance control. Yeah. You know, the student performed, maybe he experienced or she experienced some sort of anxiety. So how can I manage my anxiety? What aspect of my speaking skills? This is, self-reflection. So let's move on. Now, another activity, perhaps very important, is how can teachers help students to set goals? You know, teachers go to the classroom to facilitate learning, not to really tell everything to students, to help students learn, how to learn. So let's take some time and see how teachers can help students set goals. Here are some techniques using which teachers help students to set goals. So would you like to fill in? There are some activities, missed words or phrases, perhaps. Take time. You know, at the center you find helping students to set goals. Then you have some areas. Sure. Exactly.
Now the teacher at the heart of the teaching learning process. Teacher's role is only just to facilitate, to help students, to assist them so that students can be independent learners. So in this regard, one area which teachers can intervene and then help students to become independent learners, among others, is by helping them set their own goals. So in this regard, there are lots of areas which teachers can be instrumental in helping their students.
So we're getting, okay. Yeah. So Rita and Kennedy were giving answer for the previous activity.
Great.
We appreciate your participation. Melanie is coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, coaching, perfect.
Excellent.
Okay, excellent, Melanie. Thank you, Melanie.
Achievements.
Celebrate achievement. She's giving the answer. Yeah. Okay. Denise is also. Sure.
The role of moderation.
So
the teacher, of course, is multifaceted.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, really.
Thank you for, yes. So there you go. Now, if you, okay, we have two respondents. So reflect on past performance. This is Sibona. Rita is goal setting. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. So there you go. So yeah, you're right. There you go. So now teachers can help students to set goals. You can model goal setting. For example, you can give your own goal setting. This is my goal in terms of, for example, reading. You can teach the importance of goal setting. You can set objectives collaboratively. Exactly. So maybe the teacher or among the students, you provide goal setting templates. There could be a variety of templates, so you can give them one. Reflect on past performance. You provide feedback and support. Yes, to take a lesson.
Stories,
yes.
At the same time, your failures.
Exactly.
So that by the end of the day, you can take remedial actions to what is to come next.
Yeah, sure. And provide feedback. Feedback is very important. Feedback is not optional, as you know. And finally, celebrate achievements. You plan, for example, to read one book, maybe a short story, or whatever. Were you successful? Let's celebrate your success. Okay, so Now, let's move on. Sorry. So how do teachers help students reflect? So would you like to come in now?
Yeah, how do teachers help students reflect? One of the areas that is given due care in the area of self-regulated learning is, despite the fact that the teacher is not the sole decision maker, but still the teacher has got an ample role to play. So in this regard, for instance, providing structured reflection activities would be one area which a teacher can help his or her students.
Yes.
The other one, model self-reflection. For instance, the teacher himself would serve as a model, and he would make self-reflection while he's reflecting or while he's making self-reflection. Then the students would see an opportunity of course, modeling him, modeling her, so that by the end of the day, the students also would try to take the same suit. Still, the teacher is to be model.
Because the teacher, as often said, is the best learner in the classroom. So the teacher should consider himself or herself as a learner, and he or she should model self-reflection. And
one of the roles being given due prominence these days, among others, so long as teacher's role is concerned, is the teacher is a learner among learners.
Sure.
So in this regard, the teacher has to always open-minded, ready to learn, and also to what you call create supportive environment in classroom. For example, whenever we say he is expected to create a supportive environment, it means that the teacher, for instance, has got a role of designing the class. Resource management, man management, or human management, not man management, but human management. And other issues, of course, are taking the upper hand so long as the teacher is concerned.
You're right.
Encouraging journal or reflective writing. This is also very much useful, let alone in academics, even for our own routine life. Yeah. And so from 5 to 8.
Sure. And then probably this is one of the things that is missing in most classrooms, because as we said from the beginning, we conducted a research and we asked the students to see if they have journaling or reflective writing, and most of them, or if not all of them, told us that they did not have that habit, and this is something we need to consider for our future endeavors. Then the other one is provide targeted feedback. Targeted feedback, if, for example, the students planned on reading, so you need to give them on reading. That should be targeted, specific. Then facilitate peer discussion. This is very important also. The students are there to learn, not only from the teacher, but from classmates, from peers. So peer discussion. Then set aside dedicated reflection time. In fact, the curriculum, the textbooks, the syllabi don't allow teachers to have a separate section, a separate time for reflection, because we learned this when we interviewed teachers last time. But I think we need to have a separate dedicated reflection time on how students could progress. Then the last one is support goal reflection. So maybe, do you have other ways using which teachers can help students reflect? Let's see some answers. What other ways do you think? Share us your experience. Okay.
Very good.
Philomena, yeah, I know. And person, okay. Yeah.
Strategy questions. So planning is an important talk about metacognitive skill, right?
Okay.
So in that regard, asking strategic questions should, among others, be one of the roles of teachers.
Perfect. And was it again from
I'll just interrupt a second. Getachew, you need to stay near the microphone.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So asking strategy questions, as answered by or suggested by Philomena, if I'm
Philomena,
Philomena, right. I think it's very important. Why? Because in self-regulated learning, one area that is given importance is planning, setting your own goals, and when goals, so long as goals are concerned, asking strategic issues is very important.
Indeed, exactly. And we're getting answers, very nice answers. A very nice idea, Theresa. Visual checking on if the targets are set are achieved. And Kennedy, they can implement student mother teacher association so that they can reflect and work together. That's very nice. While they encouraging learners to set their own goal, perfect. And Philomena asking strategy questions, very nice. And unfortunately, Almaz is telling us she cannot hear us anything. And maybe she is having unstable connection. We're sorry, Almaz. She is a very prominent professor in our university. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Let's move on. So now we're coming to the second issue, which is 21st century skills. Now, what are the 21st century skills? Can you define them? Let's see some definitions. Remember, we're covering two major areas, self-regulated learning and 21st century skills. We're dealt with self-regulated learning. Now we're coming to second one, which is 21st century skills, and how these skills help us nurture the self-regulated learning and language skills. So let's see your definition. As usual, I'm sure we will see Melanie Kennedy there. Let's see, Denise is encouraging group discussion. He was referring to the previous activity. Rita, as expected, is here. Speaking about the obstacles faced. Okay. Great. Yeah, let's see some answers, some more answers. 21st century skills. Probably until we get some feedback or some answers. Getachew, as we talked about earlier on, different countries through their Ministry of Education have identified different 21st century skills. The Ministry of Education in Ethiopia, for example, has identified about 8 21st century skills, and probably the Ministry of Education in Kenya or in Britain or Mozambique could have. So you will share your experience later on. We will. Okay. So WASE is research, analysis, evaluation, cooperation, regulating one's emotions. Okay. Yeah. They're referring to the 21st century skills, right? Creativity. You're right. Problem solving. Good.
Yeah, Tariku, great.
Yeah, Tariku, very nice. Melanie, Rita, adaptability. Thank you, Rita. She's here again. And now Abu Bakr Arlinido, 21st century refer to a set of abilities, knowledge, and attributes that deemed essential. Perfect. That's wonderful. Yeah. Almas Barak is here. Thank you, Almi, to have you here. They are communication and collaboration, citizenship, digital literacy, critical thinking, problem solving. She has taken everything out of our mouth.
Yeah, right? Daniel has rightly pointed out earlier, these 21st century skills, of course, they are skills which are to be incorporated in the policies of different countries. Perhaps some of the 21st century skills that the Ethiopian government, the Ministry of Education has incorporated are
the ones. So as you said, coming next. As you said it rightly. So 21st century skills refer to a set of capabilities, abilities, and competencies that are essential for individuals to thrive in the modern world, in the contemporary world. So now one might ask, what is the competency then? And who's competent? What is competency in terms of, for example, learning? Who is a competent student or learner? So we have another activity. You see here like icons, right? Hand, shaking hands, heart, and a brain. So which one refers to which? Hand, for example, is what? So competency is about learning to learn, learning to live together, learning to be, and learning to do. This is according to the UNESCO's definition. Previously, competency used to be about learning to learn, which is knowledge, learning to do, which is about a skill, and learning to be, which is about attitude. But UNESCO later on added, competency is also about learning to live together. So can you match? Let's see your answers. So who do you think would be answering now? We have Almaz, we have Kennedy.
As we just mentioned from the very beginning,
Yeah.
we are here not to speak, but to take lessons.
Yes.
And to learn from our global colleagues. And we are getting really marvelous, marvelous knowledge.
So we're hoping Kennedy will come in.
Palm is now coming, learning to do.
Learning to do. Palm is learning to do.
Very
Yes.
good.
Very nice. We have Olubukola Agbalaya. So he must be a colleague from, I guess, Nigeria. Philomena learning to do perfect. Rithad expected Idir. Heart is learning to live together. Okay. Okay. You're almost there. Almost there. Handshaking is learning to live together. This is Olubukola Agbalaya. Good. Wase, your student is hand learning to live together. Okay. Now, yes.
Competence is concerned, for somebody to be regarded as competent, he or she is expected to meet these 4 criteria.
Yes.
I think as per the latest edition of UNESCO.
That's right.
Please
so
proceed,
the palm, the hand refers to learning to do. One cannot say I'm capable of doing now. One has to continuously learn to do things. Learning to do is the palm or the hand. Shaking hand is learning to live together. The heart is learning to be about liking, attitude, and the brain is learning to learn. Okay, so let's move on. Now, the 21st century skills. As you know from the outset, we told you that different countries through the Ministry of Education, their Ministry of Education, have identified a number of core competencies or 21st century skills. The Ministry of Education from Ethiopia, for example, have identified these. And according to Grief and Trilling and these scholars, these are the 21st century skills. Cultural identity and global thinking, creative thinking and innovation, leadership and decision-making, digital literacy, critical thinking, collaboration, learning to learn, and communication. These are core competencies. So now the question is, how do we use these 21st century skills to nurture self-regulated learning, to nurture the language skills? These are the areas now we're going to focus on. Now, so you can take time, or you may tell us if in your country, in your curriculum, you have the same core competencies, if teachers are aware of these, and if you could tell us, if you could share your experience, how the teachers were made to know about these competencies. Let's take some time. I think everybody is with us. Let's see, Gary, can you still hear us? Are we connected?
Yeah, you're all fine as far as I'm concerned, yes.
Perfect, perfect. And Steve? Great. So now share us your experience if teachers are aware of these core competencies. If you have in your policy documents, maybe curriculum framework or the syllabi or maybe textbooks. Let's see some answers. We'll move on. I think we have some minutes. Okay, we have an answer. A question: can we receive the link to the meeting later? Okay, Philomena, Gary, maybe Philomena is asking, can we receive the link to the meeting later? Maybe.
Yeah, if you're asking about a recording, then yes, there will be a recording.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so maybe you can take some time and think over it. I mean, you can see your policy documents and see what core competencies your 21st century skills have been identified. Now, let's carry on. So we have 21st century skills, as we mentioned earlier on, the learning to learn, leadership, and so on and so forth. We have the language skills or the grammar, for example, reading, speaking, writing, listening, grammar, some skills also, maybe pronunciation, whatever. So the thing is, how do we, for example, encourage learning to learn through teaching reading, for example, or speaking, or writing? Yeah, please come in.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The most interesting thing here is, all right, now so far we have been talking about self-regulated learning. We have been talking about 21st century skills. But by the end of the day, of course, since we are language teachers, then how can we apply the integration of 21st century skills to self-regulated?
Yeah, that's it.
And here we should try to give you certain practical instances where we can apply the integration of both in language skills or in teaching language. Dr. Daniel, please proceed.
Yeah, let's say, for example, let's consider one of the core competencies, which is learning to learn. Now, learning to learn to enhance self-regulated learning, for example, and reading skills. In the first place, what is learning to learn? As you can see here, is a process of acquiring knowledge, skills, strategies, and attitudes that enable a learner or individual to effectively and efficiently learn new information and solve a problem. So now, if we use learning to learn as their core competence, and if we enhance reading the skill, this is what we can do. Maybe you can reflect on this later on. You can provide a student with a reading choice. You can tell the student to choose a book of his or her interest. It could be a short story, for example. Then you can teach reading strategies, maybe the skimming, the scanning, intensive reading, extensive reading, whatever. Then you can help students to set reading goals. Maybe when are you finishing this book reading? After 15 days or whatever. Then you can probably encourage discussion among students. You can also use technology. Let's say, for example, Telegram, where students reflect on what they've read. Then you can finally celebrate reading. You see, this is learning to learn because student is deciding which book to read, when to finish reading, depending on his or her own pace. But we are enhancing the reading skill and again promoting learning to learn. The student is free to make decisions, which book to read, when to read, and at what pace. Leadership, can you come in, Getachew?
Yeah, leadership and decision making to enhance self-regulated learning and speaking skills. Leadership and decision making in student learning refers to, as you can see, the skills and abilities that students develop to take ownership of their own learning process, make informed decisions, informed choices, and effectively guide their actions and behaviors towards achieving their educational goals. So in this regard, the students need to get involved in leadership and decision-making activities. And one of the issues that is involved or that is, of course, available in self-regulated learning, among other things, as we discussed earlier, leadership and decision-making. So it involves taking initiative, exercising autonomy, making sound decisions based on careful analysis and reflection instead of simply waiting for the teacher to furnish the student with everything necessary. So in this regard, the student has every opportunity, every what you call potential of making decisions of what to learn, how to learn, in what way to learn.
Yeah, and one point I would like to add here is, some teachers, some language teachers, from my experience, say, why should I care about leadership and decision making? After all, I am teaching language skills. Why leadership? Why decision making? And how would that be possible? So this is how one might, develop an activity. For example, to enhance the leadership and decision making through speaking skills, or to enhance speaking skill through leadership and decision making. You can think of providing such activities. For example, you can foster autonomy so that students would exercise decision making. You can offer choices for topics, presentation, formats, or discussion. You might ask them, for example, decide any topic to talk about. Then you provide opportunity for leadership and decision making. You might ask them, for example, assign roles within your speaking tasks. Who is, for example, the chairperson in your group, who is writing, and who will present later on. So now they are making decisions. Okay, you will be the presenter. You will be the chairperson. You will gather this information about this. And the format. Then support self-assessment. You might encourage students to reflect on their speaking. Maybe they present, then ask them, how did it go? What was wrong, what was right? What went right, what went wrong? Then you finally foster collaboration, like assign group projects or discussions where students need to negotiate, make decision together, and support each other's speaking development. So what we mean here is they are exercising the speaking skills. They are again exercising leadership and decision making, right? Let's move on. Collaboration to enhance self-regular learning. Collaboration is the core competency or 21st century skill. So how can it help us, enhance writing skill? Let me talk about this one and stepping, right? Yeah, so for example, writing skill, collaboration. You could give them group writing projects where they collaborate. Like a certain group writing project, like teamwork, for example, they collaborate. Or you might ask them to peer edit or give feedback. You are teaching writing, okay? You might give them an assignment to write an essay about anything. So give it to a friend, let him or her edit your work, and let him or her give you feedback. So they are collaborating. Or you might give them collaborative brainstorming activity, kind of writing workshops or collaborative writing activities and so on. So we are teaching writing and they are also exercising collaboration, right? So now, can you give us some activities which you think can help us collaboration, can help students, exercise collaboration? Let's see some comments. You can join the group. I just downloaded. Please, how do we download? Okay, they're talking about the recording, I guess. Okay, yeah. Gary, is that okay? Are we still connected?
You are still connected, yes. Yes, perfect. And people are talking about the certificates already and the recording, so.
Okay. All right.
Great. Maybe they'll answer your questions as well.
Okay, let's move on to, critical thinking innovation is the other core competency. So Getachew, tell us how we can
so that's the point I would like to mention.
Oh, sure.
Now decision making is an important skill. Leadership is an important skill. And also collaboration is an important skill so long as self-regulated learning is concerned. Mm-hmm. Especially the application where this collaborative language learning can come to the forefront is nowadays, project-based language learning is becoming one of the issues that is taking the upper hand.
Yes.
So in project-based language learning, of course, collaboration is very much important. For instance, most of the time, students might be given different project works, different writing assignments, different research works. So in that regard, you can simply create the platforms of opportunity whereby students can come together, collaborate, make decisions, set goals, etc. So in many areas nowadays, of course, we are simply having these days language learning as a discipline, of course, is the one that is grossly applying this collaboration.
Okay, right, you're right. And so critical thinking innovation as a core competency or 21st century skill, for example, how can it help us, for example, enhance writing again?
Yeah.
Critical thinking is not for the philosophers. Critical thinking is also for the language learners, for example. So one example we provided to you here is you, for example, provide students with a short story with a clear ending. Then ask them to give an alternative ending. So they should think critically. This was the ending we were given by the writer. So how can we creatively, provide a different ending? So students will be encouraged to think creatively. So this is an instance. Okay, where in the interest of time, let's move on. So the importance of 21st century skills, I don't think we need to take a lot of time on this. You can, yes. Very briefly.
So one of
just to say there are a few contributions in the chat. So Melanie talked about collaborative
in the chat.
Okay.
Debates and carrying out a project.
Okay.
And Sibonu Kule,
I see,
about group activities, whether writing tasks or speaking tasks. So they got lost in the discussions about the Telegram group. but there are two nice contributions there.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary, and thank you, participants. Yeah, appreciate.
So lifelong learning was one of the 21st century skills is lifelong learning. The other one is effective communication and collaboration. So especially self-regulated learning requires learners to effectively collaborate and then to communicate smoothly with their classmates, with their peers, with their teachers, what have you, and then enhancing this quality.
Yeah, you're right, Getachew. Thank you. So now,
it's important.
So as Getachew mentioned, we conducted research on self-regulated learning here in Addis Ababa in one of the high schools. And we've come with some major findings on positive impacts of self-regulated learning. In fact, we...
By doing this research, seminar of Kotobe University of Education, the research finding.
Yeah.
It was sponsored by Kotobe University of Education, the research itself, and the finding was presented to the academia, and some of the findings are the ones which Daniel is going through them.
Yeah. So, what we learned from students is that they would love to set goals, but they told us that they were not supported by the teachers. And the teachers admitted that they were not encouraging the students to set goals. And the students also reported that they would like to monitor their progress, but they were not encouraged to do so. And they collaborate with friends, take responsibility. They would be delighted if they could be helped by teachers. And the reason the teachers gave us for not supporting the students was that they were encouraged by the supervisors to cover the curriculum, to cover things given in the textbook. And the supervisors, when they go to the classroom, all they need to see is if the teacher is fully adhering to textbook, following to the textbook from page 1 to the last. So overall, the teachers admitted that self-regulated learning would be so helpful. So we wanted to see the potential challenges in implementing self-regulated learning and these 21st century skills. And some of them, as you can see, are here. So maybe you can also take some time and write what you think about these in the chat. So the things we've come up with, we've found out from the research we conducted and from our readings is, one is lack of continuous professional development, especially here in our context in Ethiopia. Professional development is not focusing on these core competencies, on self-regulated learning. It's rather focusing on, covering the textbooks and this formative assessment, summative assessment, and students are given tests and so on to decide whether they have to pass or not. It's not just to foster learning. So that is lack of continuous professional development. The other one is time constraints and extensive content of textbooks. Teachers argue that they have time constraints, limited metacognitive skills from the students' side, lack of motivation and persistence, pressure to focus on summative assessment, as I told you, and lack of parents' engagement. Maybe you could add. You can still tell us your answer.
In the context, there is one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Which I can add. And based on the research findings we came up with last time, it was noted that one of the reasons for our teachers, for our school teachers, not to implement fully this self-regulated learning and 21st century skills is the fact that the teachers themselves, of course, are not that much well proficient in the target language English. Exactly. And that has always remained to be an adamant challenge. This was also proven through the very extensive discussion we had with the student community.
Exactly, that's right, that's perfect. And so what do you think about these strategies? You can see explicit action, scaffolding support, and so on. I think we're against time, so these are some of the strategies we suggest to help us overcome the challenges. With regard to the references, these are the references you can have a look at so that you would gather relevant information. So now we've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you, everybody. Should you have some comments and questions, you are welcome. Now, Gary, over to you. Gary?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at the comments. There are a couple of comments there at the end about lack of appropriate educational policies, and teachers aren't very motivated sometimes due to poor working conditions. So I guess there are a couple of comments. You might like to respond to those comments.
Okay.
If people want to put up their hand to ask a question, we still have a few minutes. So
teachers aren't very motivated sometimes due to poor working conditions. Melanie is was a lack of appropriate education policies. Okay, was it maybe you'll have to explain what you mean by lack of appropriate educational policies. Very good. Thank you for your contribution.
yeah, I mean, I think the point is about, you know, the particular conditions that people work in, or the, you know, if, you know, you're trying to promote 21st century skills and you're trying to promote self-regulated learning, if that isn't something that's supported by your local Ministry of Education or your local inspectors, then teachers find it very difficult to actually work on that, because they're not supported to do that. They're not encouraged to do that. They're encouraged to do other things. So how do they do that? How do they do it if there isn't support within their local community?
Asking us. Yeah, Gary, can you say that again? I think you were asking a question.
Yeah, I was just saying that I just clarified what I thought the person was talking about. They were saying basically that what happens, how do you get teachers if teachers are not supported by their Ministry of Education, or teachers don't have, you know, it's not in their curriculum, and they want to introduce self-regulated learning through 21st century skills? How are they going to do that?
Yeah, great. As I told you earlier, for instance, by the time we presented our research findings to the academia, the Ethiopian State Minister of Education himself was in the session, and we openly informed him that unless such kinds of issues are supported through policies of the government, and unless the government and the Ministry of Education, of course, works hand in gloves with all the stakeholders, then it will be very much difficult to fully apply what the self-regulated learning and 21st century skills, of course, might demand. So this was the issue that was discussed, and the minister himself, of course, took note of, and we are, optimistically waiting for their positive gesture.
That's right. And another thing we need to be aware of is these 21st century skills and self-regulated learning things are in policy documents, in the curriculum framework, for example, in the Ethiopian case. But the thing is that teachers are not made, aware of these things. When teachers were asked, for example, during the FGD we had, they were not aware that we have these 21st century skills in the policy documents. So the Ministry of Education or Education Bureau personalities have the duty of, making teachers aware of these skills.
Okay, so Melanie's made a point there, which I think is a relevant one. It's certainly possible to do these things. And I mean, one of the points that struck me was that you talked about the idea that teachers need to be a model for these things. So in the same way that Melanie very effectively introduced sustainable development goals into her teaching, you're obviously working very hard to demonstrate self-regulated learning in your teaching. And so that helps to model the process. It's like we talked about earlier in the year, we talked about assessment for learning rather than just, other, direct, summative assessment. So we talked a lot about that idea. So the point being that you need to build these things into your practice. So particularly, if the people who are watching this or listening to this are teacher educators, or they have some form of responsibility in their school for professional development, then they need to demonstrate those things within the practice they work in. So I think that's that helps to sort of deal with that. Just to say to people that every Friday after the presentation of a webinar, so this coming Friday, so I think you'll find the date is, let me just check the date, make sure I've got the date right. So the date is the 1st of September. We have a discussion in the Telegram group. So we invite Daniel and Getachew to come along and continue this discussion. So we continue the discussion about self-regulated learning, and you can come with your ideas. You can come with what you want to talk about. You can talk about the way your governments are introducing self-regulation, and it just continues the discussion for another hour. So it's at 5 p.m. GMT on Friday, the 1st of September. So we'll have Daniel and Getachew back again, by which time we will have had the recording. Steve or Michelle will have processed the recording, so you can advertise it to other people. So there has been, I was unfortunately posting the wrong link to the Telegram group earlier, but this is the right link. So please join our Telegram group. Lots of things happen there. Lots of things are advertised through that. So please join the Telegram group. And on Friday, next Friday, we'll continue the discussion about self-regulation. And if Daniel and Getachew, who are members of the group, want to put in some tasks or ideas between now and next Friday, that will be great. So thank you very much. Thank you for your interesting webinar, and thank you for doing it as a pair. That worked very well, I thought. And interesting to see the relationship you developed through your research work, which is another thing to encourage people to think about, working together, doing sort of action research, doing other kinds of teacher development through research, which is a topic we'll come back to in this academic year. And we hope to, somebody's asking again for the link to the Telegram group. There it is again. So that's the form you need to fill in. So has everybody got their certificate link as well now, Steve? Everybody complaining about the certificate as usual. So thank you very much, Daniel and Getachew, for a great presentation. Thank you those who came. And we'll see you all hopefully again this coming Friday. That will be fantastic.
Perfect.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary, and Steve.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you, dear participants.
All right.
Yeah,
thanks,
thank
Michelle,
you.
to our background
Every participant.
Thank you.